Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be continuing our discussion with negatives. So now we will be worried about multiplying, and dividing, and divide negative numbers. Negative numbers. Alright, so to tackle this, we need to make a chart. So these are the basic rules that you need to remember. So let's say we have a number that is going to be, let's make this a bit bigger. So we have the numbers, and we have the product. Now, if those of you who don't know what the product is, let me give you a little bit of a refresher. If we say 2 times 3, the product of 2 times 3 would be 6. So let's say we have two numbers, and one is positive, one is going to be negative. So the rule says that when we multiply by a positive number and a negative number, the result will be negative. And because multiplication goes the other way around, it doesn't matter even if the first number is negative, second number is positive, the product will still be negative. Now, I'll give an example of the next one, which should be familiar to all of you. If we say 2 times 3, 2 is a positive number, 3 is also a positive number, the result should be positive. And you've seen this throughout positive. Here's the tricky part. If both numbers are going to be negative, what will be the sign of the product? And keep in mind, these are the signs. So 2 times 3 is positive 6. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. But what happens when there's negative 2 and negative 3? I mean, you can kind of get behind, okay, so if I have 2 times a number and then you add it 3 times, that makes sense. Okay, and then if you have 3 times a number, you add it 2 times, that makes sense. But then it doesn't make intuitive sense when you say, let's multiply negative 2 negative 3 times. So I encourage you to pause the video and think about this for yourself. Alright, welcome back. And so the answer will be positive. Now, I can't show you a real-life example because we don't work with positive numbers, but I will give you a numeric example. Let's say we have 3 times, and this is our new notation for multiplication, negative 5. Now, if you look at this, we've introduced this dot and this dash right next to each other. It doesn't make sense. So what we do is, whenever we have a negative number and multiplication, we put parentheses around this negative number to show that we're multiplying 3 times negative 5, not 3 times minus 5. That just doesn't make sense. So using a rule, if the number is positive, 3 and negative 5, we just do 3 times 5. Very simple. 3 times 5, 3 times 5 is going to be 15. And then the product should be negative, so we put a negative at the end of it. And same goes for division. If we have 15 divided by negative 5, again, I did the parentheses so it's not confusing. The answer will be 15 times negative 5, which would be just normal 3. Put a space in there just in case if you don't know, and go back to the chart. And so the chart says 15 is positive, 15 is positive, and the second number is negative, so the product, or even if you divide, it will still be negative. Oops, that was a weird, okay. What about negative numbers? So let's say we have, last example, let's say we have negative 3, let's put a parenthesis so we don't get anything confused, times negative times negative 7. So let's just solve this as it is. So 3 times 7 is going to be 21. And so it says in the chart that a minus times a minus will always be positive. And so just for the sake of the just teaching you guys, I will put positive 21. And same goes with division. If I say negative 10, it's best to just put parentheses. It's a good practice. Divided by negative 2. So first what we do is we just do 10 divided by 2. It doesn't matter what the sign is just yet. So 10 divided by 2 will be equal to 5. Let's go back to our chart. So negative 10, negative number, and divided by negative 2, also a negative number, will give a positive number. So that means negative 10 and negative 2 will be a positive number. Now division, we can explain why this is. Just a little quick example. Let's take our example of negative 10 divided by negative 2, and let's put the parentheses over here. So what is negative 10? Negative 10 is equal to negative 1 times 10. Just like 10 is equal to 1 times 10. This is a negative 1 divided by negative 2 is negative 1 times 2 times 2. And what happens is, when you have any number divided by any number, this is just going to be equal to 1. So I'll just cancel this out and say this entire thing is going to be equal to just 1. That's just the rule. 5 divided by 5 is just 1. And so that would leave 10 times 1, which is just 10. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. And I hope you learned something.